everybody, and welcome to the Alzheimer's Society of Simcoe County's regular Facebook Live broadcast. It's Monday, May 31st. My name is Erica. I'm an education coordinator here at the Alzheimer's Society. And today's topic is, I'm going to do an overview of frontotemporal dementia. So maybe before I get started, I'll wait for people to join us. I just want to say a huge thank you to everybody who participated in the Walk for Alzheimer's this month. Yesterday was our official walk day, and I'm happy to say that we are well over our goal for this year. So in Simcoe County, our goal was 75,000, and I checked this morning and we're already at over $83,000 online. And this is just the online donations. I know a lot of you have been collecting directly from family and friends. And then we've also had some amazing sponsors who have given their support. So we're so very grateful to everybody who participated in the Walk for Alzheimer's. All the money that was raised here in the Simcoe County Walk will go to support the programs and services that our local society provides to people living with dementia and their care partners throughout the county. So thank you so very much. It's been a tough year, of course, with COVID. A lot of our fundraising activities have not been able to go ahead as they normally would, including the Walk for Alzheimer's. So I'm just so glad that everybody really got into the spirit and did their own walk and raised money online. Okay, so talking about frontotemporal dementia today. That's our topic. I had a request to talk about different types of dementia. So a few Facebook Lives ago, I started off with Alzheimer's disease, which is the most common neurodegenerative disease that we see. But there are a lot of other neurodegenerative diseases. So these are diseases that cause damage in the brain. So they're neurodegenerative, but they're also progressive. So we haven't found a way to stop the damage from happening. Damage does get worse over time. So the most common was Alzheimer's disease. If you're interested in seeing that video, it is saved in our Facebook video, so you can go and access it there. The next Facebook Live, I talked about vascular dementia. So this is another common changes that happen in the brain. So when the brain is receiving vascular damage, blood is not flowing to all the regions of the brain the way it should. It causes damage resulting in dementia. So you can find out more about vascular dementia in our videos. And then our last Facebook Live, I talked about Lewy body dementia. So you can find all of those there. So today I'm talking about frontotemporal dementia, and this will be our last Facebook Live talking about specific dementias. When we think about frontotemporal dementia, it's actually another umbrella of some various different types of neurodegenerative diseases. So there's a number of things that impact, as it says, our frontal lobe and our temporal lobes. So when you think about our frontal lobe, that's the part of your brain where if you put your hands right on your forehead like this, with your hands towards the back, you're basically covering the frontal lobe of your brain. So with these diseases, that part of the brain is affected, primarily affected, as well as the temporal lobe. So if you put your hands on either side of your head by your temples, these are where your temporal lobes live. So that part of the brain is the regions that are affected with these diseases. The most common frontotemporal disease is what's commonly called Pick's disease, or it could be a behavioral variant. And so what's happening is the brain is, it produces certain kinds of protein, but these proteins are becoming misshapen and they're causing damage. So the primary culprit in frontotemporal dementias is the tau protein. It's also at work with Alzheimer's disease, but with Alzheimer's disease, you have both tau and beta amyloid. With frontotemporal, it's primarily tau. There's another couple proteins that work as well. But it's causing these Pick's bodies to be developed inside of neurons. And these Pick's bodies cause damage to the neurons and cause them to die off. But it's also causing problems in the wiring, so the way that brain regions talk to each other. So it's hard for the brain to get messages. Let's say the brain is, the occipital lobe at the back of the head of the brain is not primarily affected with these types of dementia. So people might be able to visually regard something, but they have a hard time connecting it with the information they need in order to make sense of what to do with that visual information. So there's like wiring issues. Can't seem to make the connections between, what information I'm getting and what does this mean and so on. So when you're thinking about frontotemporal dementias, I'm just going to take my cue cards to make sure I don't forget information. You have, if you were to get a diagnosis of frontotemporal dementia, there might be a number of things that go into getting that diagnosis, as with any type of dementia, looking at what are the changes that are actually happening. But part of that might be doing a brain scan. And if you're looking at the brain scan, you might see a lot of atrophy, so shrinkage in this frontal and temporal parts of the brain, because that's the part of the brain where you're losing those brain cells. And when you think about those parts of the brain, we have to understand what those parts of the brain do for us. What are their jobs? And then we can understand what are the changes that somebody with frontotemporal dementia might be experiencing. So this frontal part of your brain here, your frontal lobe and your prefrontal cortex, it's really important for things like planning and organizing. It's also what allows us to have good judgment and reasoning. It's the last part of our brain to develop, which is why our teenagers, they don't have a very well developed frontal lobe, so they do things that aren't very smart and take risks that normally we wouldn't take because that part of their brain is developing. So if that part of the brain is being damaged by this disease, it's almost like people are going back into that kind of state and behavior. They're doing things that are maybe too risky, and so they get themselves into trouble. Let's say you're 50 years old and someone tells you about the newest, hottest stock, so you put all your life savings into that stock because you think it's going to do really well, and then you end up with some disastrous financial consequences. So people tend to do things that maybe they normally would not do, so that judgment and reasoning becomes affected. It could be part of it is task initiation. So as part of that frontal lobe or the prefrontal cortex allows us to start tasks and get motivated. So we might see a lack of motivation. It's also, this part of your brain is your filter. It's what stops you from saying or doing things that you know might get you into trouble or might hurt other people's feelings or not socially appropriate for the situation. So we all have these moments where we have a thought or a feeling or an action, but our frontal lobe says, wait a minute, that's not a smart thing to do, or that's not a kind thing to say, it might hurt somebody's feelings. And it stops us. It's our filter. It says, no, don't do that, don't say that, that's not very good. But if this part of the brain is being affected, then those thoughts and feelings might just start coming out. I might think it, I say it. I think it, I do it. And then I get myself into trouble. So this kind of dementia has more impact on relationships, can get people into trouble financially, get people into trouble with the law sometimes. So there can be some big consequences with this type of dementia. So again, that frontal lobe, planning, organizing, task initiation, judgment, reasoning, and it's our filter. So we'll see increased inhibitions, behavioral issues, and so on. You think about those temporal lobes on either side of your head. They're really important for language, speech and language. So we do see also with this frontotemporal dementias that people can have problems, language problems, trouble finding the words that they want to use to express themselves and get their message across, having trouble with speech. So communication issues. And if somebody wants to, express themselves or get their message across and they're having trouble doing so, then that behavioral thing, and again, the filter is being damaged with this type of dementia. So if I get frustrated, I'll act on that frustration or I'll comment on that frustration, and that could end up being hurtful or get people into trouble. So we see a lot of those issues with these frontotemporal dementias. So again, those issues that we're seeing, the relationship issues, sometimes legal issues, sometimes financial issues, behavioral issues. And one thing with frontotemporal dementias is that we commonly think of dementia as being something that older people develop. So we think of people 65 and over have dementia. We know that a lot of people can start experiencing symptoms of dementia before the age of 65, which was what we call young onset. We can see that with Alzheimer's disease, but with frontotemporal dementias, we actually see this more commonly. So with frontotemporal, common age range for onset of symptoms between 45 and 65. It can start exhibiting symptoms before 45, or it could be after 65, but that's kind of the common age range, 45 to 65. It does affect more men than women. But if you imagine in that age range, people are often, they might be still raising kids, They might still be in the workforce. So when we talk about the changes that happen with this frontotemporal dementia, and just imagine some of the impact that this has on people's lives. They maybe start to have problems in their workplace, having relationship issues with their family. So there's a lot of consequences to this type of dementia. Also, because it's people are younger and it has some similarities to other mental illnesses and so on, it can be easily misdiagnosed in the beginning. So maybe it could be misdiagnosed as depression or some other mental illness. Sometimes it's misdiagnosed as Alzheimer's disease. Sometimes people say they're just going through a midlife crisis, and they're kind of doing all these things that they normally wouldn't do. But it could be this type of dementia. But like so many things, it has to progress, and it takes a while to get a specific diagnosis. So if you are somebody that you're seeing some changes in yourself, or you're seeing changes in your family member, it's really important to keep that dialogue open with your healthcare team and let them know exactly what is changing so that they can try to figure out exactly what's happening and what's going on. All right, so I want to leave you today, just because we've been talking about other types of dementia outside of Alzheimer's disease, and we are called the Alzheimer's Society. So sometimes people think because it's not a diagnosis of Alzheimer's that we are not there to support them. So I do want to assure all of you that the Alzheimer's Society does support people living with a progressive dementia, or the family and friends who are supporting someone living with a progressive dementia. So if you have a diagnosis of frontotemporal dementia, or Lewy body dementia, vascular dementia, or another type of dementia, the Alzheimer's Society is here to support you as well. So please do contact us. You can always message us here on our Facebook page. So I do get the messenger notifications, and I do my best to respond to people as soon as I can. You can also call our main office line at 705-722-1066 and get connected to us that way. So please know that you're not alone. We are here to help you. And if I have to say with this Facebook Live, so this is the last type of dementia that I'm covering in this series, I haven't quite decided yet what I'm going to do with the next Facebook Live. So if you have something that you want me to talk about, a topic that you have, a question that you have that you want me to answer, please send it my way, and we'll see what I do 2 weeks from now at our next Facebook Live broadcast. So until then, take care.